So here we are in Blender. I'm going to hold down the Windows button and press R, and that's going to bring up the run window. I already have %appdata% in there, so I'm just going to click OK, and that's going to bring me to my roaming location where I could jump into the Blender Foundation folder, Blender, and then have access to my configuration on this computer. So we've talked about how these folders are your identity whenever it comes to you using Blender. So if we go inside of it, we see that we have scripts, which represents our add-ons, and then we have configuration, which represents the way that you have Blender configured. Underneath this window, I have this spherical open. If I were to drag this startup.blend over onto Blender and choose open, we have basically opened our default scene. That's really how our default scene is stored. Here's our bookmarks, our recent files. In addition to that, we also have our user preferences. So occasionally I will come in and I will right click the config folder, and I will just compress it into a zip folder and then name it something based on the date, and I'll have a backup of my config. What this means is that if I were to basically delete my configuration and then we close Blender and open it up again, Blender is going to open as if we've never seen it before. And now that we've placed the window back, we can basically go through and reconfigure Blender as if we've never seen it before in our lives. Because we deleted the configuration folder, we can set our spacebar to search, we can set our theme to deep gray, we can go to next and press Shift H to hide that, press F4, bring up our preferences. And an interesting thing is, even though we delete our configuration, we still have our add-ons installed. So we can go in here and easily enable HardOps and Boxcutter and just enable these tools and just get started getting ready for work. But whenever it comes to re-enabling your classic configuration, you can also do that. We can just close Blender, we can go back, we can delete the new config folder that was just created, we can right click this one, and I'm going to choose to extract this here under more options. I use WinRare, and now we have our original config folder back. So what that means is if I open Blender, we can basically bring back up our original configuration. So this configuration that we've created is always going to be backed up and able to be restored by me in the event something goes wrong. So if you're precious about your setup and you have it working exactly the way that you want, you probably want to back up your preferences periodically from time to time. I actually have like 10 backups of my preferences at all times, just in case I need to revert back to previous states. So now that we've discussed configuration, how to back up your configuration and restore it if needed, let's talk about scripts. If we go to scripts and add-ons, we see that this is where your add-ons are installed. So whenever it comes to installing and updating add-ons, some people install it through Blender. Me personally, if I had to update HardOps, I would come in, delete the HardOps folder, and then drag over the new HardOps folder from the update, and that would be it. Basically, I've updated HardOps. In fact, when it comes to installing add-ons, you can actually drag the folder of an add-on into the add-ons folder, and basically that add-on has been installed. I just installed Mirror Tools just by dragging the folder over. So what this means is that when I open up Blender, it's going to be in the layout that I had it set up with. However, if I were to go under Preferences and Add-ons, and we search for Mirror, we also now have Mirror Tools. So really it's that easy to install an add-on. You don't even have to go to the install add-on part of Blender. You can just drag the folder over into the folder, which is the way that we used to deal with add-on installation. But just showing you how easy it is for you to update and install add-ons without even having to use the UI of Blender itself. You're able to deal with those on the back end, and this is how you really take control of Blender and use it to the max, because your configuration is you. If you take this folder and you just rename it, then the next time you open Blender, it's going to open as if it's never seen you before. But if you just rename it back, the next time you open it, you will be good to go. So just a little bit of info about how to get the most out of Blender, configurations, scripts, installation, etc.